So see, now we're looking at two-step equations, which again isn't too bad because we can make them as many steps as we want. So number one here is pretty basic. So the idea is to start off by getting all the x's on their own side of the equal sign. Now I'm using this, well, some people call it a T method. Doesn't matter what you call it. I put a line through the equal sign just so I know if I do it to one side, I got to do it to the other side. Now I'm not going to do anything to the 5x's. I want to keep those, okay? But I don't want 5x to be added or subtracted in anything. Right here it's being subtracted to 2, or we subtract 2 from it. So how do I get rid of that minus 2? That would make it a 0. So I'm going to add 2 there, so I got to add it to the 8 as well. So again, this becomes a 0. That's good. That's what we wanted. 8 plus 2 is 10. Now again, some of you guys know 5 times something is 10. You know what the answer is there, but formally, that's 5 times x. So to undo the multiplication, we would divide both sides by 5. And we see that x equals 10 divided by 5 is 2. So on this one, once again, we got a negative 7y. That's okay that those are negative. We want to keep those there. But what we don't want is a minus 9 stuff. We definitely want to get rid of that minus 9. So to get rid of it, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it 0 by adding 9. But if I do it to one side, I got to do it to the other side. Again, these cancel out. That's good. And I got negative 23 plus 9, which I get negative 14. Nice thing about all our answers right now is they're coming out as whole or integer type values, meaning there's no decimals or fractions yet. And to solve this, I would divide it by negative 7. Again, what that does is it creates a 1y, but we don't usually show that 1 there. So negative 14 divided by negative 7. There's 2 negatives, so we know it's a positive answer. 14 divided by 7 is 2. But again, we don't show the positive either. So we could check this. Negative 7 times 2 is negative 14. Minus 9 is negative 23. Again, that's something you could do in your calculator just to check that off and make sure your answer is correct. So here we have n over 3 minus 8 equals negative 2. Now we did some like these on the last section. The idea here is to get this just to be n over 3. That will make that look very similar to the types of problems that we did in the last section. So again, I've got to get rid of that minus 8 by adding 8 to both sides. Again, that will create a 0 situation right here. And negative 2 plus 8, now we've got to be a little careful on this one, but again, you can use a calculator to check. Negative 2 plus 8 is 6. Well, I have an n, but it's not really by itself. I just got to have an n by itself. So how do I get rid of that? Divide by 3. There you go. See, the multiplication will get rid of the division, and the 3's cancel each other out. Essentially, they become 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. That's what we wanted. We wanted an n, and 6 times 3 is 18. So we can check this, and it should go pretty much backwards for the work that we have. So 18 divided by 3 is 6. That's what we had here. 6 minus 8, so that would be this plus negative 2 rather. So n is 18, and we checked that. Again, we didn't check it showing the work, which I do highly recommend, but for the sake of time, in this case, we're just kind of doing it in our heads there, or with the calculator. All right, so we got this negative 7 equals negative c over 6 plus 12, and I do want, again, the idea is to get this negative c over 6 by itself. So I can't have it being added to 12. So how do I get rid of that plus 12? I'll just subtract 12, but I have to do it to both sides. So this equals negative 7 minus 12 is a negative 19. So here's what we probably want to do. And this is fine if you do it like this, is if we multiply both sides by 6 like this, then these 6's cancel out, but what we're left with is a negative c. Okay, we can't forget about this negative in front. So, as it turns out, if I can get rid of that just by multiplying both sides by a negative 6. So if I make that 6 a negative and this 6 negative, then the negatives cancel out and I have a positive c right there. So, negative 19 times a negative 6, that's going to create a positive answer, which would be 114. Again, you could have a calculator to check that. And of course we could check that, we should check this now. So 114 over 6, that's going to give us 19. So negative 19 plus 12 is indeed negative 7. So yeah, that's good. So let's go back to that. We did it in one step, but it's possible to do this in 2 steps. So we could have done what we had originally planned, multiply both sides by 6. These cancel. We just have to remember that that's a negative c. So that's a negative 114 equals negative c. That's a phantom 1 right there, so if we divide both sides by negative 1, the negatives cancel, and again we're left with 114 equals the c. However you do it, again, is up to you. 2 steps, 1 steps, it doesn't matter. The answer should come out the same. 14. Here we have a denominator of 3. This is r minus 3, all of that over 3. So to get rid of the 3 in the denominator, again, we can do the same thing like we've been doing on these fractional type problems, is these 3's will cancel out here. We're left with the r minus 3, but now it equals 5 times this 3, which is 15. Well, this one's not too bad, because to solve for r, because there's no coefficient for r, we'll just have to add 3 to both sides. Again, that cancels these out, making it a 0. R equals 18.